So Sam and I jumped in the Jeep this morning and headed up to Carbon City, which is 9.6 miles from my ranch here in Medicine Bow in Carbon County. This was originally called Carbon City, and right here where I'm standing would have been town, the center of town. This right here, I just talked to an archaeologist in that truck right there. He's over there scouting out right there. He has this place mapped out. This right here would have been the hotel. It's not very big, but there wasn't a lot of people here. However, people did spend their entire life here working in the coal mines, which I don't know if you can see those buildings, but they're pretty far off in the distance. I was just up there. Sam and I scouted it out, and I have some photos of that. So they would have worked out there and they would have resided here. There's a graveyard just around the corner, which people died here. People were born here. Generations of people lived here, worked here, and called this home. And interestingly enough, this area right here was the largest coal producing location in the United States. This is what allowed us to, they shipped it back to Pittsburgh and the East Coast and kept those steel plants burning and kind of sparked the Industrial Revolution. But it all started right here. This is where we got the coal. This is where they got the coal from the ground. And there's so much history about Carbon City. I encourage you to Google it and read some Wikipedia stuff on Carbon City, Wyoming. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, other than see the coal vein right there? I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's all coal. And when I was up at the coal mine, there's just big hunks of coal sitting right there on the surface, railroad tracks that led the coal buckets out of the mine. And I believe what shut it down, or I know what shut it down, was a couple catastrophic mine explosions that killed the majority of the working men here in Carbon City. So I believe there was two, and then the coal production picked up in Hanna, which is just about 10 miles to the west. Little town of Hanna, coal producing town, and they're still producing coal there today. But I want to just take you around and show you what a hotel would have looked like back in the turn of the century. We still got wood for floor joisting. It looks like this would have been a big tall wall with, you can see like the gabled end. You know, who knows, this could have been the place where they sat, and wouldn't have been that big, just some cots and some bedrooms, and you know, I don't believe that people came out here for 5-star accommodations, but you have to appreciate what they did and where it's at. This is literally in the middle of nowhere. Brutal environment. Brutal environment. The winters out here are it's Arctic weather out here. It's you know, there's 30-foot snow drifts at times out here. So, and then the rattlesnakes, the wolves, it's hostile, and they made it happen. Somebody at some point built this, and it's just a little humbling coming up here and just slowing down enough to appreciate and put into perspective the little window that I have to walk this planet, you know, and looking at all the hard work that others put in while they spent their time on this planet. It just kind of puts things into perspective, and at times it's a little humbling. Yeah, there's an old bucket, I don't know. That wasn't put there anytime recent. We have some timbers here. Some of these timbers, I believe, would have been floor joists with a dugout underneath of it for storage, for whatever, keeping things cool. can see some of these are leaded in. Yeah, this was probably, right here, this was probably the remnants of a log cabin. Without question, this was the remnants of a log cabin. And those who built out of stone, this is probably just a little pathway right here from that person's cabin to this person's house. There's another house. This would have been adequate living for a bed, a stove, you know, a dinner table, bunk beds. There you go. And all this stone. And I know of that story. Going out, picking stones up and carrying them back. I did it over at my place, although not to this extent. I know how much hard work that is. Yeah, the wind's, hopefully the wind's not too bad, but as we just pan around, there's Elk Mountain there. And that's to the south. That's due east. And that's due north. So for the most part, the prevailing winds and the storms typically come out of the west like they are right now. And so this looks like a great topographical, geographical spot to weather from the storms coming over and the wind. So, and being that they built some of this, most of this out of stone, would have served them well with this Wyoming wind. This right here would have been the saloon just coming into town, coming up around this road right here. I'm walking on the road that literally leads us into this town square area. And I wonder what it was like back in the day with this hustling and bustling with women keeping the houses in order while the men head off to the mines, and what the weekends might have looked like on those much deserved days off. And like I said, generations called this place home, and this is where they spent their life. So anyways, I wanted to share that with you and hope you enjoyed. So on my way out of Carbon City, which is right on the other side of that knoll, I wanted to stop by this cemetery and do a little investigation on, there's nothing that tells the story more of a community than its cemetery. So I'm just going to read you a couple of things of interest here. And there's one story that is captioned here that I want to speak to a little more. I want to do a little more in-depth video on that story. So in 1868, the first burial, stable boss killed by Indians while he searched for lost mules. In 1868, victims of the Bloody Lake Massacre interned at the top of the hill. So that would be right there. We'll go take a peek at that. The body of Mrs. D.A. Griffiths is brought from the church. Friends and family in the morning, and they sang Welsh hymns following the service. 1904, a large group of boys and men led by blacksmith Steinburn installed pieces of pipe from the number 2 mine, reinforcing the original wooden entrance post. So in 1904, that's when these 2 poles, steel poles from number 2 mine, led by the blacksmith, who, I found this blacksmith nail when I was walking through the center of town. That has to be, most likely, it was pounded by Steinberg. There's a picture of the original gate, which was right there. So as we walk up, I want to take a look at some of these larger tombstones, headstones, and see what some of the dates are.